Hey dreamer, tonight we're stepping into one of the most deceptively dangerous roles in modern social history. Hosting a dinner party in the 1950s. It wasn't about food, it was about appearances, about timing, about getting everything exactly right. Table linens, deviled eggs, and a surprising number of emotional landmines, all carefully suspended in gelatin. Forget Pinterest and Costco cheese boards. This was a time when one wrong canapé could shatter your entire social standing, and a slightly wilted celery stick could spark a multi-year feud. Before we get lost in a fog of meatloaf and polyester, take a second to like this video and subscribe, or double check if you're already subscribed. It helps the channel much more than you think. And feel free to leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and what meal you think you'd serve if you had to host a 1950s dinner party. I'm curious. Now, dim those lights, get comfortable, let your muscles relax, and let's take a moment. What was it really like to host guests in 1950s suburbia? How many Jell-O molds are too many? What do you do if your casserole sets off the smoke alarm again? Why did everyone own exactly 4 card tables and a lifetime supply of toothpicks? Could you survive an entire evening in heels, Spanx-level girdles, and forced laughter while debating whether or not your ambrosia salad was undercooked? Well, congratulations. You've just woken up in 1953. You're wearing a neat cotton dress, your lipstick is somehow brighter than your living room lampshade, and you've had the great idea to host a dinner party. Good luck. The words dinner party sounds fun in theory, like something out of a Doris Day movie. But in practice, it is a high-stakes social Olympics with the threat of reputation damage hanging in the air like improperly whipped meringue. You are not just feeding people, you are feeding opinions. And in this era, opinions are garnished with paprika and presented in a mid-century dish shaped like a leaf. Immediately the calculations begin. What night is safest? Friday is tempting, but Mrs. Greer always holds her bridge game then, and if she hears about your little gathering second-hand, she will spend the next 3 PTA meetings speaking in coded shade. Thursday? Too risky. People are still recovering from whatever casserole-based incident befell them on Wednesday. Saturday is ideal, but now you are competing with church committee dinners, and one unfortunate neighbour who always throws themed events involving costumes and tap dancing. You settle on Sunday. It feels neutral, non-threatening, almost holy. Surely no one can judge you on a Sunday. Once the date is set, the anxiety blooms. Invitations are issued with the quiet urgency of a covert mission. It all starts with an innocent phone call, or what appears to be one. "Oh, we simply must have you over for dinner soon," you say, as if you have not already started diagramming a seating chart and pricing out 3 types of pudding. Everyone accepts. Of course they do. It is 1953. People do not have excuses. They have casseroles and grudges. The minute you hang up, you feel it. That tiny clench behind the eyes. The realization that you have just committed to a full week of anxious vacuuming, creative gelatin experiments, and your husband forgetting to pick up cocktail napkins until the hour of the event. You stare into the rotary phone like it might apologize. It does not. Your guest list grows faster than you expect. The Morgans, because they just had you over for Swedish meatballs and mild political propaganda. The Parkers, because their niece is in town and they want to show her you have normal friends. And the Crawfords, who no one particularly likes, but who must be invited or risk social fallout so large it could knock over your ceramic duck collection. With the head count locked, the real descent begins. You make a list, then a second list, then a cross-referenced index card system you pretend is casual. You lie awake at night wondering if your table can seat all guests. It cannot. You consider borrowing a card table, but remember that the last time you did that, it wobbled during dessert and nearly took out Mrs. Pratt and her lemon chiffon. Your husband is no help. When told of the event, he makes a noise halfway between a grunt and a sigh, then asks if there will be olives. You consider replacing him with a fondue pot. Less talk, more heat. In the days that follow, every conversation becomes a test run. What will you say when the Crawfords arrive early, as they always do? How will you subtly brag about your new vacuum without sounding like you're bragging about your new vacuum? Which story will you tell to charm the group? And which ones will you quietly murder in your memory because they involve ex-boyfriends, botched Jell-O, or that one incident with the flaming centerpiece? By the time Sunday rolls around, you are not a person. You're a tightly coiled social mechanism running on nerves, lipstick, and the terrifying hope that your ham does not taste like rubber. The invitation was the easy part. The performance will begin soon. It's time to get ready for the day. You own precisely one hosting dress. It's powder blue, covered in tiny bows, and might be flammable. The transformation from civilian to hostess is not unlike the launch sequence of a small spacecraft. There are stages, layers, and a lot of sweating. You begin with the foundation garment, which is a cheerful name for something that feels like being stuffed into a sausage casing by an aggressive aunt. The girdle takes several minutes and a firm wall to lean on. It is elastic, judgmental, and comes with the faint smell of despair. By the time it's on, your organs have signed a resignation letter. Next comes the bra. It has structure, ambition, and 2 cups shaped like traffic cones. There's no adjusting once it's on. Your chest now points confidently toward the heavens, ready for liftoff or light armor combat. The matching slip slides on like a whisper and bunches like a threat. You ignore it. The dress itself is a marvel. It zips up the back, which means you either need your husband's help or an upper body rotation that qualifies as interpretive dance. You wiggle, tug, pray, and finally get it into place. It is snug. Too snug. You haven't even had a cracker yet, and already you're fantasizing about unzipping it behind a potted plant after dessert. But it's the only one that makes you look like someone who might be featured in a Good Housekeeping spread titled Grace Under Pressure. Accessories are chosen with the gravity of a court appearance. The shoes are kitten heels, the only pair you can wear without crying. They match the dress, which is the sort of miracle that earns you bonus points in the invisible beauty pageant you are accidentally competing in. The stockings are delicate, slightly uneven, and vaguely terrifying. You broke 3 pairs before getting this one on. Jewelry is minimal but strategic. The pearls are real, or real adjacent. You polish them on your sleeve and fasten them around your neck like a talisman. Earrings are clip-ons that will leave angry little reminders of your commitment to beauty embedded in your earlobes for days. A brooch may be added. It will stab you at least once during the evening and you will not react. Makeup is war paint. Foundation, powder, blush, and a shade of blue eyeshadow designed to be seen from orbit. Mascara is applied with a trembling hand and the concentration of a neurosurgeon. One wrong move and you'll spend the night blinking like a haunted doll. The lipstick is red. Very red. The kind of red that leaves permanent marks on glasses, napkins, and the psyche of any man bold enough to kiss you. Hair is its own separate crisis. You set it the night before in curlers the size of soup cans and slept on them like a martyr. In the morning you brushed it into place with a mixture of hope and prayer. It sprayed into a sculpture that will not move for the next 72 hours. Not even under direct artillery fire. Your bangs have been shaped with more architectural integrity than the local bank. Finally, you check yourself in the mirror. You look shiny, poised, slightly terrified. You take a deep breath and hear your girdle creak in warning, but you are ready. You are dressed not for comfort, not even for style. You are dressed for battle, the kind fought with casseroles, cutlery, and that one woman from church who always asks if you've gained weight. Today your dress is not just fabric, it is armour. And God help anyone who spills gravy on it. Time to stage the set. The magazines are fanned out on the coffee table like a trap. The ashtray is empty, the cushions fluffed to an unnatural height. You've hidden the ugly lamp, the questionable art, and the ash-burned afghan your cousin knit. This room must scream effortless elegance, while quietly whispering, "Please don't look under the couch." Every surface in this room has been scrubbed to the point of existential reflection. The coffee table is polished within an inch of its laminate life. The end tables shine like they've seen things, and the baseboards, those tiny forgotten ledgers of social doom, have been wiped clean with a damp rag and several prayers. If anyone brings up how clean your baseboards are, you know they looked too hard. That's a red flag. That's war. The magazines are curated with the obsessive energy of a museum exhibit. Ladies' Home Journal, Better Homes and Gardens, and one rogue, National Geographic, for intellectual credibility. Each is placed just slightly overlapping the next, as if they simply fell that way in a spontaneous burst of charm. You know better. You spent 10 minutes arranging them, and then rearranging them again, after realizing the top issue had an ad for hemorrhoid cream. The curtains are drawn just so, allowing in a warm glow of natural light that you have painstakingly timed with the sun's location. You opened them 2 inches to the left for ambience, then closed them a ½ inch to avoid glare. You are now deeply emotionally attached to curtain angles. The couch is wearing its good slipcover, the one without mysterious stains or mystery crumbs. You sprayed it with just enough furniture polish to reflect dignity, but not so much that guests will slide off like greased eels. You've also fluffed the throw pillows until they resemble small angry clouds. Their primary purpose is not comfort, it is intimidation. On the shelf, you've displayed your most harmless books. Nothing political, nothing too romantic. A mix of cookbooks, etiquette manuals, and one large dictionary because it suggests you know words. You dusted each spine, alphabetized them, removed that one title with the racy cover your sister lent you. She has bad taste and no shame. Scent is critical. You lit a candle 3 hours ago and then blew it out precisely 10 minutes ago, so the room smells subtly inviting, but not like you're covering for something dead in the walls. You placed a bowl of potpourri near the entryway. It is decorative. It smells vaguely like old soap and pine. No one likes it, but everyone pretends to. The record player is loaded with something instrumental. Jazz, maybe. Something with enough rhythm to suggest sophistication, but not enough volume to overpower passive-aggressive compliments. You've tested the needle, the volume, and practiced saying, "Oh, that," just something I picked up at the shop downtown, in case someone compliments your musical taste. You've also hidden anything that might imply struggle. The overdue bill shoved in the drawer, the laundry basket relocated to the garage, the half-darned sock that was living on the armrest for a week. Gone. This is no longer your living room. This is a stage, and you, dear host, are about to perform. You sit for a test moment on the couch. Too bouncy. You remove one pillow. Try again. Better. You sip water like it's a martini and glance around, scanning for anything that might betray you. a scuff on the floor, a crooked frame, a rogue raisin under the radiator, all fixed in a flurry of quiet, focused panic. This is curated domestic bliss. It is smoke and mirrors with doilies, and when guests arrive, they will say how lovely it all looks, and you will smile, serene and composed, as if you didn't just Febreze a chair with the force of a fire hose. Because that's what grace looks like in the 1950s. Clean rugs, fake calm, and the ability to pretend this is how you live all the time. 2 words. Casserole roulette. You've committed to an ambitious menu involving meat suspended in gelatin and a mayonnaise-based dip that looks like regret in a ramekin. Something's burning. Something's undercooked. The oven timer has betrayed you, and the fridge is making a noise that sounds like it's losing the will to refrigerate. Also, you forgot to defrost the pie. You try to remain calm. After all, you have a plan. You wrote it out in pencil on an index card last night while wearing your night cream and trying not to cry. Each dish is timed down to the minute. First the ham loaf, then the carrots, which need to be boiled into submission, then the aspic salad, which has already set into something between food and performance art. But the ham is too pink, the carrots are too hard, and the aspic is sweating, which you didn't even know was possible. You open the oven. A wave of humid meat air hits you like a scented threat. The loaf is browning aggressively on one side and not at all on the other. You rotate it like you're diffusing a bomb. The oven mitt slips. Your elbow grazes the rack. You do not scream. You hiss quietly, as is tradition. Back at the stovetop, your double boiler is not boiling. It is sulking. The hollandaise sauce you optimistically planned is now separating into something that resembles mood swings. You add more butter, then more. It doesn't help, but at least you feel like you're doing something. In the corner, your electric mixer gurgles with malicious intent. It has one job. It is failing at it. The refrigerator hum has become a whimper. You open it to check the jello mold, which is supposed to be lemon lime with a surprise layer of shredded carrot. The surprise is that it is still liquid. You poke it. It sloshes. You close the door like you're sealing a crypt and mutter something about betrayal. The dip you made earlier sits on the counter, sweating in its own sadness. It is pale, lumpy, and faintly resembles something found in a science exhibit about mold. You try to fluff it with a fork. It resists. You garnish it with paprika and hope no one looks directly at it. You glance at the clock. Guests are arriving in 45 minutes, which sounds like plenty of time unless you count the fact that you still have to set the table, fix your lipstick, hide the broken mixer, reheat the rolls, and solve the mystery of the missing pie. The pie. You rush to the freezer. There it is, rock solid. A perfect edible glacier wrapped in foil and shame. You run it under lukewarm water and whisper empty promises to it. You start multitasking in a way that defies physics. One hand on the stove, one hand smoothing a tablecloth, one foot nudging the cat away from the deviled eggs. You stir, pour, whisk, chop, and sweat. You are now 70% effort, 20% anxiety, and 10% mayonnaise. A spoon clatters to the floor. You bend to retrieve it, bump the open oven door and launch a potholder across the room. It lands in the butter. You blink 3 times, then calmly decide the butter was never important anyway. At some point, everything is technically ready. Nothing is perfect. Nothing is quite hot or cold enough. But it is all presentable from a safe distance. The ham loaf holds together. The carrots look edible if you squint. The jello has stopped sloshing. Mostly. You adjust your apron, fix your lipstick, and wipe one final smear of sauce off the cabinet door. The kitchen looks like a crime scene, but the battle is over. You have survived the spiral. You are victorious. You are exhausted, and your pie is still frozen solid. But you will serve it anyway. Your husband emerges 10 minutes before the guests arrive, smelling like aqua velva and accomplishment. He adjusts his cufflinks like he's about to receive a medal and asks with a straight face if there's anything he can do to help. You hand him a tray of deviled eggs. He immediately drops a toothpick into one of them, mutters something about slippery garnishes, and is never seen in the kitchen again. This is his signature move. Appear late, offer vague help, fumble once, retreat. He disappears to check the stereo, which involves leaning meaningfully over the record player while doing absolutely nothing for 45 minutes. You will find him there later, alphabetizing your Doris Day albums like it's a critical wartime assignment. He has spent the last 2 hours not helping. He was in the den, barefoot, drinking a beer, asking thoughtful questions from a safe distance, such as whether you needed him to pick up anything or if there was time for a quick shave. You were, at that moment, elbow deep in mayonnaise and boiling carrots, trying not to cry into a bowl of sweating aspic. You responded by saying "fine" through clenched teeth, which he interpreted as approval. Now, freshly changed and suddenly charming, he leans against the doorframe of the living room and surveys the space like he had any role in its transformation. He compliments the scent, which could refer to the roast, the floor polish, or your very expensive perfume that you now regret wasting on this evening. You thank him anyway, because there is no time for a trial. You ask him to light the candles. He lights one, burns his finger, makes a noise like a startled dog, and leaves the room in search of sympathy and ointment. He returns several minutes later with a single candle lit and a band-aid, then attempts to open the wine. You watch as he wrestles the cork like it owes him money. The cork wins. He eventually pries it free with a screwdriver from the junk drawer. The bottle now has character. You ask if he'll greet the guests when they arrive. He agrees but vanishes again, this time to adjust the volume on the record player. You later find him flipping through liner notes and bobbing his head to something vaguely jazzy, as if this counts as emotional support. Meanwhile, you're flying around the house like a caffeine-addled tornado, wiping smudges off the good serving spoons and fluffing your couch cushions for the 4th time. You fish an ice cube out of a salad bowl and pretend not to cry. You glance at the clock. 5 minutes. He re-emerges, calm and composed, tucks a cocktail napkin into his tux pocket, and stands ready near the door like a game show host about to hand out a prize. You, in contrast, have a sweat halo, a frizzing hairline, and a blouse that is beginning to stick in places blouses should never stick. Because in the 1950s, the man in the tux gets credit just for standing there. He is charming, polished, admired, and you, the woman behind the casserole curtain, will simply vanish into the background, smelling faintly of jello and suppressed rage. The chime echoes like a sentence. You smooth your dress, ignore the sweat pooling in your shoes, and smile like a Stepford gladiator. The door opens and the first wave pours in with the urgency of people trying not to seem urgent. Guests enter, bearing lukewarm side dishes and passive-aggressive compliments. "Oh, you made the centerpiece yourself. How brave." Let the psychological warfare begin. There is chatter, perfume, coat shuffling, and the unmistakable thud of a fruit salad in a ceramic bowl that weighs more than your cat. Someone hands you a casserole dish wrapped in a floral towel and says, "I wasn't sure if it would keep, but I figured better safe than salmonella." You thank them like they just presented you with royal tribute. Your husband stands nearby, beaming like he painted the walls himself and birthed the floral arrangements from his very soul. He takes coats. Poorly, he hangs a jacket on a chair, balances a fur stole on the banister, leaves a hat on top of the stereo. Each item slowly becomes a hazard. Eventually you will trip over a galoshes pile in your heels and take down a guest with you like a small, well-dressed avalanche. You usher people into the living room where the curated chaos awaits. Guests comment politely. So tasteful. So cozy. Is that a new rug? You nod. It is not. You vacuumed it for 45 minutes and used a lint roller the size of a fire extinguisher. But yes, let's pretend it's new. The first guest inspects your bookshelf. She pulls out a copy of Emily Post and flips it open like she's checking your work. Another peruses your magazines and pauses just long enough to silently judge your choice of cover stories. You ask if anyone wants a drink. They all do, at once, with different requests. You rush to the kitchen, pour 4 glasses of sherry and one of something that might be ginger ale or might be cooking wine. You no longer care. You return, arms full, and distribute the glasses while smiling so hard your cheeks begin to tremble. One guest sniffs the sherry and says, "Oh, this reminds me of something I drank once in a dentist's office." You pretend not to hear. There is small talk. So much small talk. Weather. Road conditions. A recipe someone cut from a magazine and now insists on describing in real time while you nod and grip your glass like a lifeline. A man you barely know asks if your husband still plays golf. You say yes, though you have not seen a single golf club since 1949. The centerpiece, the one you spent 2 hours assembling out of pine cones, silk ribbon, and a glue gun injury, becomes a topic. It is called interesting. Bold. One woman taps it with her nail and says, "I love how you went rustic." It sounds like a compliment. It is not. You smile anyway. 2 children appear. You don't know who brought them. They are holding a candy dish and licking every peppermint before putting them back. You make eye contact with their mother. She sips her drink and looks away. You check the clock. It has been 11 minutes. It feels like a week. You excuse yourself to the kitchen, where you take a single deep breath next to the fridge, refluff your hair, and whisper, "Don't you dare cry into the deviled eggs." You straighten your dress, reapply lipstick, return to the battlefield. The guests are now circling the hors d'oeuvres like vultures with dietary restrictions. Someone asks what's in the dip. You tell them. They say, and do not take any. A man picks up a cracker, sniffs it, and puts it back. He does not make eye contact. You make a note to find his car and slash his tires with your salad tongs. The doorbell rings again. Reinforcements. You retighten your smile, shoulders back, chin up. One last breath. Showtime. Toothpicks everywhere. Olives. Pineapple cubes. A meatball so dense it might cause a dental emergency. One brave soul attempts to spread warm cheese on a Triscuit and ends up flinging it onto the carpet. You feign delight. Inside, you're wondering if this is how empires fall. This is not just a snack table. This is a battlefield dressed in doilies. Every platter is a trap. Every dip is a gamble. The deviled eggs are holding together by faith alone. The crab dip is suspiciously warm. The crackers are stale in a way that makes you question the structural integrity of your dental work. And still, everyone approaches as if they've been starved for 3 days and you're hosting the last known source of salt in the American Midwest. Someone spears an olive, misses, and flicks it directly into a potted fern. Another tries to use a single toothpick for 3 different appetizers, as if germs were not invented yet. A man in a camel blazer leans over the table and breathes on everything while telling a story about how he once grilled an entire trout in a hotel coffee maker. You begin to lose your grip on reality. You offer a tray of mini meatballs to a woman in a velvet shrug who accepts one with visible reluctance, then places it whole into her mouth and nods solemnly. This, you suspect, is solidarity. A different guest hovers over the ranch dip like a contemplative monk, then double dips with zero remorse while maintaining direct eye contact. You consider relocating to another state. The toothpicks multiply. You don't remember putting out this many. They seem to breed like spores in warm air. They end up everywhere. On the record cabinet, on the radiator, inside someone's shoe. You find one later tucked into your girdle like a souvenir from a party that tried to kill you. And then there's the cheese ball. A monstrosity the size of a grapefruit covered in crushed pecans and existential doubt. People admire it from a distance. A few make cautious attempts with brittle crackers that immediately snap, leaving behind splinters embedded like archaeological tools. One brave guest hacks at it with a serving knife, extracting a glob that slides off their plate and rolls across the table like a guilty marshmallow. They pretend nothing happened. You pretend you didn't see it. Someone knocks over the cocktail wiener platter. Not the entire thing, but enough to cause a cascade of tiny sausages skittering toward the edge of the table. You leap forward with the reflexes of a jungle cat, catching them in a serving spoon before they hit the carpet. Everyone laughs politely. You consider opening a second bottle of wine and drinking directly from it. One of your friends tries to help. She read a single article in Good Housekeeping and now fancies herself a canapé strategist. She rearranges the tray of shrimp cocktail into a radial formation that immediately collapses like a seafood sundial. She replaces toothpicks with mini forks, then swaps them back after a man with large fingers asks where the pokey things went. She smiles at you with pride. You smile back with the dead eyes of someone who has just watched a soufflé deflate in slow motion. Then someone brings out the Jell-O salad. Not yours. A guest creation. It contains grapes, shredded carrot, and what might be tuna. You smile so hard your eyelid twitches. People circle it cautiously, murmuring phrases like, "What a creative combination," and "I never would have thought of that," in a tone that suggests they never wanted to. A child asks if it's alive. You do not answer. Eventually the table looks like a war zone. There are broken crackers, empty toothpick holders, and a lone stuffed olive clinging to the edge of a napkin like it's escaping a sinking ship. Someone's pimento fell down a heating grate. Someone else mistook the butter mints for decorative soap. You refresh the platters. You wipe down the table. You reposition the meatballs. Again, it never ends. This is the price of hospitality. This is the unspoken agreement between host and guest. You feed them. They slowly destroy your home, one sticky cube at a time, and then someone compliments the spread. They say everything looks delicious. They ask if you catered. You say thank you. You lie. You say it was nothing. Because if you say the truth out loud that you spent 2 days curating this culinary carnival of disappointment and sodium, someone might offer to help, and that would be worse. The martinis are flowing. The gossip gets spicier. Cocktail hour was meant to be a soft opening, a gentle glide into the evening. Instead, it has morphed into a social centrifuge spinning wildly out of your control. You are now running drink triage. Someone wants more gin. Someone else swears they asked for scotch but is clearly holding a glass of white wine. There's a mysterious request for a pink thing and no further information. You nod like that's fine. You make it with grenadine and hope for the best. The liquor table, once neat and optimistic, now looks like the aftermath of a jazz-age bar brawl. Bottle caps everywhere, a glass rim crusted with sugar. The olives have formed a coalition in the corner of the serving dish and appear to be staging a quiet rebellion. A lime wedge has gone missing. You suspect foul play. Someone spills vermouth on the carpet and tries to blot it up with a decorative napkin shaped like a swan. The napkin dies a swift and soggy death. No one confesses. You find a damp corner and whisper to it like a soldier saying goodbye to a fallen comrade. Aunt Agnes has stationed herself near the sherry and is now telling a story that may be true but has grown suspiciously theatrical. She gestures wildly with a half-full glass, narrowly missing the buffet candelabra. Every sentence ends with a dramatic pause and a meaningful look around the room. Her earrings sway like bells of doom. Mr. Langley, emboldened by his third martini and his general lack of self-awareness, decides it's a good time to share his thoughts on city zoning laws, loudly. He speaks with the confidence of a man who once read half a newspaper article in 1948 and never looked back. His wife attempts to interrupt him by coughing delicately into a canapé, but he powers through. Someone starts the icebreaker game. You didn't plan this, you didn't ask for this. You have no idea where the cards came from. Now everyone is asking each other deeply personal questions from a floral box labelled Fun Conversation Prompts. One woman shares the story of her first kiss. Another confesses she doesn't believe in ironing. A man admits he never learned how to whistle and suddenly becomes the subject of unexpected sympathy. Meanwhile, the alcohol is working its dark magic. Laughter grows louder. Volume control disappears entirely. The man in the argyle vest begins singing along to the record player. It is not a song anyone else recognizes. He sways dramatically. No one stops him. You find yourself refilling 3 glasses at once. A gin, a brandy, and something called a golden Cadillac that involves cream liqueur and regret. You are a blur of hostess effort. The shaker squeaks. Your pantyhose itch. The waistband of your girdle is attempting mutiny. You smile so hard your teeth feel numb. Your own drink, abandoned hours ago on a side table, has been claimed by someone else. They lift it mid-sentence, sip it without flinching, and continue discussing their recent bridge victory like they just invented cards. You consider taking theirs, but that would require confrontation, and you've already used your monthly allotment of backbone in asking someone to please not feed cocktail sausages to the dog. The room swells with voices. Someone has turned up the music. A lamp flickers ominously. 2 guests have settled into a debate about taxes and butter rations. A child is playing with the ice bucket. You stop him right before he dunks his sock in it. You do not ask why. You refill more glasses. You pass around the cheese straws. You retrieve a martini glass from behind a curtain. You pretend not to notice a lipstick print on the punch ladle, and still, your own hand remains empty. This is cocktail hour in 1953. It is not a gentle slope. It is a spiral. And you are at its centre, spinning in heels, clutching a tray, smiling into the void. Eventually someone tells you to sit down, to relax, that you're doing too much. You thank them, you laugh. You stand perfectly still for 10 full seconds, then quietly go refill the ice. It's finally time for dinner. The table is long and narrow, a polished battlefield with matching placemats, and a centerpiece composed entirely of things that could catch fire. There are candles, pine cones, possibly some tinsel. One of the candles sputters ominously but refuses to die. A perfect metaphor for this dinner. Each place is set with surgical precision. Forks on the left, knives on the right. Napkins folded into fragile triangles like origami swans with a death wish. You practiced this layout on a paper diagram from Ladies' Home Journal, cross-referenced with a diagram from Better Homes and Gardens, and still managed to accidentally seat someone directly under the chandelier with a dangling crystal that keeps brushing their scalp like a tiny chandelier ghost. The gelatinous main course shudders slightly as you spoon it out. It does not slice so much as slurp into pieces. You plated it with a sprig of parsley that is immediately removed by your uncle, who says he's allergic to green things that are not jello or cash. The consistency is somewhere between custard and crime scene. No one knows what to say. The meatloaf ring holds its shape longer than anticipated. The gravy boat leaks like a wounded soldier. The green bean casserole is greeted with respectful silence until someone says, "Oh, this again," and two cousins exchange a glance that suggests someone once forgot a birthday and will never be forgiven. Across the table, someone is dissecting the rolls with surgical focus. They use a butter knife to extract precisely one square of margarine from the communal dish, then return it with such delicacy it becomes performance art. Someone else has taken 3 pats of butter and stacked them like poker chips. You say nothing. You focus on not dropping your fork. You focus on breathing through your nose. The topic of conversation shifts unpredictably. A neighbour's gallbladder surgery, a recent television episode, an UFO sighting near the old water tower. Mr. Langley begins to speculate that the government has been hiding something since 1947. He speaks through a mouthful of carrots, gesturing with a fork, while his wife nods slowly and drinks more wine. Someone's child begins to poke their mashed potatoes into the shape of a volcano. It erupts violently and lands on the sleeve of the woman next to them, who dabs at it with one of your decorative napkins. The napkin was embroidered. You say nothing. You chew your salad like it owes you money. Aunt Agnes tells a story that begins with the words "back in my day" and ends with an accusation that someone at the table once faked a fainting spell to avoid choir practice. The accused is now 42 years old and currently wearing a turtleneck. She denies nothing. Tension hangs in the air like a second chandelier. You ask if anyone wants more wine. Everyone does. You refill glasses with the speed of a seasoned sommelier in crisis. Someone asks if the wine is French. It is not. It is from a gas station with a coupon. You smile and say it's imported. The conversation grows louder, the silverware quieter. People have stopped pretending to cut their food. They now simply scoop and shovel. The rules of etiquette have collapsed. A man uses his roll to soak up gravy directly from the platter. Someone belches, someone else applauds. You catch your reflection in the window. You are glowing with effort and panic. Your pearls are askew. Your lipstick has migrated north. You have the posture of a hostage and the smile of someone who just accepted their fate. Then someone compliments the meal, a real compliment. They say the ham was tender. They say the salad dressing was lovely. You're so surprised you almost drop the salt shaker. You thank them with a voice that sounds like it belongs to a woman who remembers sleep. The meal crawls to a close. Plates are scraped. The table is a wreckage of crumbs and regret. And yet somehow you made it through dinner without weeping into the aspic. That is what we call a success. Someone inevitably needs the bathroom. You had one goal, one small, humble goal, to keep people out of the bathroom. You Febrezed it. You put out matching towels. You arranged the guest soap into a pyramid so delicate it could qualify as performance art. But no amount of scented candles can protect you from the chaos of a civilian breaching your porcelain fortress. The first warning sign comes when someone stands up from the table and mutters the fateful phrase, "Be right back." Your soul leaves your body. You watch helplessly as they wander toward the hallway with purpose and the confidence of someone who has never met your backup plunger. You pray they won't open the mirrored cabinet above the sink. Of course they do. Everyone does. It's a law of nature. You could put a lock on it, and they'd still find a way to access the half-empty bottle of lavender face mist you bought in 1947 during a brief attempt to reinvent yourself. They will judge it. They will judge everything. Then comes the worst sound, a pause, a flush, and nothing else. Your ears sharpen. You go still. You can hear the toilet trying. You can hear it groan like an old man being asked to stand. Then a faint gurgle. Then silence. This is the sound of doom. The guest re-emerges, calm on the outside, chaotic within. They lean in close and murmur the sentence every host fears. Your toilet is making a noise. They say it like it's your dog misbehaving, like the toilet has gone rogue and you should probably leash it. You nod, stiff as starch, and say, "Oh really," as if you didn't hear the exact same noise 2 days ago and deliberately ignored it. You hand them a candle. Not because it will help, but because candles are the universal symbol of please stop noticing things. They accept it, confused but obedient, and wander back toward the living room while the plumbing begins its low mechanical wheeze of vengeance. Then a child goes in. Of course. Children treat bathrooms like science labs. Within 3 seconds, the decorative seashell soap has been bitten. The toilet paper roll has been unravelled like a hostage note. Your best towel has toothpaste on it, even though no one brought a toothbrush. The air smells of suspicion. They exit triumphantly, hands damp and mystery-stained. You follow behind, armed with Lysol and a prayer. You close the door, pause, and whisper a quiet apology to the ghost of houseguests past. Then comes the second wave. Someone drunk on boxed wine decides to freshen up. They are in there for 14 minutes. They play with the curtain. They touch the drawer that sticks. They discover the emergency matches and light one out of curiosity. You hear them cough and laugh. The house now smells like citrus and sin. You think about knocking, but you're not ready to confront what lies behind that door. Instead, you hover outside, pretending to fluff a hallway pillow, until they finally emerge looking flushed and a little too satisfied. And just when you think the crisis is over, someone asks you where you keep your extra toilet paper. You freeze. You forgot to put any out. You were going to. You had a plan. But then the casserole caught fire, and you panicked. Now a woman in kitten heels is standing in your hallway waiting to wipe. You dash into the laundry room, retrieve the backup roll that has been dented and possibly chewed on by a squirrel at some point, and offer it like a peace treaty. She accepts it with dignity. You die inside with grace. When the bathroom is finally not in use, you peek inside. It is slightly damp, vaguely perfumed, and humming ominously. You straighten the towels, realign the soap pyramid, and silently beg the toilet to hold itself together for just 1 more hour. Because in 1950s hosting, the bathroom is not just a room. It is a test. Of plumbing, of presentation, of your ability to act like everything is fine when it clearly is not. And tonight, you barely passed. You return to the table, It's time for dessert. A moulded cherry gelatin tower with Cool Whip and crushed dreams. You place the gelatin mould in the centre of the table with the same energy as presenting a live grenade. It quivers. Someone claps, unsure whether to be impressed or concerned. The top layer is supposed to be cherries. They have migrated south. A lone grape floats near the summit like it got lost on the way to a different recipe. A child points to it and says, "Is that meat?" You do not answer. You slice the gelatin. It makes a sound, a noise that should not exist in the world of food. The slice slides across the plate and immediately collapses like it just heard bad news. You serve it anyway. Then you turn to the pie. The pie was meant to be simple. A store-bought crust, a can of fruit filling, some vague ambition. But something went wrong. The crust is now powder. The filling has a mind of its own. You try to lift a slice and the entire centre gives way like it has decided to leave the party early. Gasps ripple around the room like a church scandal. A man whispers that it's still good if you eat it with a spoon. You hate him a little. Someone suggests pouring it into bowls and calling it a deconstructed cobbler. You want to ban them from your home for life. The whipped cream melts under the pressure of judgment. You try to dollop it with flourish, but it comes out in a sad little squirt. It lands next to the gelatin like a snowman with regrets. Someone asks if you made it yourself. You lie. You say yes. You say it with the same conviction as a politician dodging a subpoena. Aunt Agnes takes a bite and goes very still. She chews for a long time, too long. Then she says, "Oh my," and you're not sure if that's praise or prophecy. Meanwhile, your neighbour Janice takes a second slice and says she once had something like this at a wedding. She does not say if that wedding was successful. A man in a checked blazer taps the top of the gelatin mould with his spoon, like he's checking for vital signs. It jiggles slightly in response. He says science is amazing. You contemplate taking a long walk into the sea. The children have retreated entirely, now eating plain crackers they found in the pantry. One of them holds up a maraschino cherry like it's a cursed jewel. Another says the pie tastes like Christmas and confusion. Your husband finally reappears from wherever he was hiding. He takes a piece of everything, declares it delicious, and disappears again. You wonder briefly if you hallucinated him. A woman asks for coffee. You forgot about coffee. You rush to the kitchen, dig out the percolator, and pray. The pot wheezes. The grounds clump. It smells like despair. You serve it anyway. Back at the table, someone has started complimenting the Jell-O again, possibly as a distraction. They ask what's in it. You say love and grenadine, and one secret no one can ever know. Eventually, the plates are cleared. People pretend to be full. A man says he shouldn't have had seconds. He did not have seconds. He had one polite bite and tucked the rest into a napkin when no one was looking. You collect the pie wreckage and the gelatin remains. You scrape Cool Whip off a placemat. You find a cherry under the salt shaker. You wonder if dessert is just a test of personal resilience. And still, someone tells you it was all wonderful. They say you outdid yourself. They say it was a lovely evening. You nod. You smile. You place the gelatin mould in the fridge where it can haunt you tomorrow. You bring out the coffee like it's the last sacrament. A steaming pot, mismatched mugs, and sugar cubes that have hardened into emotional metaphors. You whisper, "Coffee anyone and everyone," responds like you just proposed a group lottery win. People perk up. You do not. You are 94% sweat and Cool Whip. Someone requests decaf. Someone else asks for milk, but not from the jug because it tastes like fridge. Another guest asks if you have cinnamon. You do not. You offer nutmeg. They say never mind. You sit for a moment. Just one. And sip from your own chipped cup of weak brown salvation. For exactly 37 seconds, everyone appears peaceful. The evening, it seems, might finally be winding down. The first guest stands, but no one actually leaves for another 45 minutes. The goodbye spiral is not a moment. It is a vortex, a slow descent into farewell limbo, where time ceases to function and people forget how doors work. Someone stands up with purpose, retrieves their purse, and says, well, we should be heading out. You glance at the clock. You feel hope. You feel release. And then someone else says, oh, but did you hear about Sandra's new drapes? Just like that, everyone sits back down. The purses are returned to laps. Coffee is poured again with the desperation of a late-stage intervention. A child who was already in the coat pile is retrieved and resettled on a lap with a fresh cookie. The door remains closed. Freedom retreats into the mist. You, the host, are now trapped in your own vestibule, one heel half on, gripping a coffee pot like a hostage negotiator. You offer refills with a voice that no longer belongs to you. Someone just wants hot water. You forget what water is. You forget how to swallow. The conversation reboots itself. New topics rise from the ashes of dessert. Someone brings up local politics. Another leans in to whisper about what she saw at the PTA bake sale last week. It was custard. It was scandalous. You nod and blink slowly, your brain trying to remember what scandal tastes like. Then comes the coat round two. A few brave souls actually make it to the guest bedroom. There they retrieve their outerwear in the same reverent hush as mourners collecting ashes. Coats are tried on, adjusted. One zipper gets stuck. There is laughter. There is bonding. A woman begins to talk about her chiropractor. You consider lying on the floor. At one point, someone puts on their gloves, a powerful signal. You move toward the door, you open it slightly. You feel the night air, cold, free. Your paws sing with joy. But no. Someone remembers they forgot to give you the recipe for that ambrosia salad. She takes off the gloves. She digs through her handbag. She pulls out a tiny stained index card. She holds it aloft like the 10 Commandments. You take it. You smile. You already have 3 copies. The child returns to the coat pile and climbs it like Everest. A hat is lost. A mitten is consumed. Someone finds a bottle cap from the cocktail hour and tries to spin it like a top. It rolls into the hallway. A chase begins. You start to laugh. Not a normal laugh. The kind of laugh that bubbles up from deep inside your stress glands and sounds vaguely like a kazoo. Someone notices. She offers you a cookie. You accept it. You eat it in one bite. You do not chew. More guests move toward the door. You hold it open like a greeter at a department store during a blackout. You hand out hugs. You hand out thank yous. You hand out compliments you can no longer remember inventing. Someone says next time, our place. You know it's a lie. You bless them anyway. You linger in the doorway for just a moment longer than necessary, waving to the darkness with the dazed reverence of a pilgrim reaching the promised land. One last car reverses cautiously down the drive, its brake lights flickering like the dying embers of forced conversation. You smile. Not the polite one, the real one, the one reserved for moments of unfiltered, exhausted joy. The final "we'll have to do this again sometime" echoes faintly behind your eyes as you gently shut the door with the same reverence one uses to seal a time capsule. The click of the latch is your national anthem. Your shoulders drop 2 full inches. Your face, once stretched into an expression of domestic serenity, finally remembers how to relax. And now, finally you can exhale. You kick off your shoes. The living room looks like a polite war zone. Ashtrays overflow, someone left with the wrong coat. Your feet are numb, your hair smells like ham, and yet you survived. You hosted. You are now untouchable in the neighbourhood social hierarchy. For 1 week, at least. The door is locked. The silence is thick. Your smile finally melts off your face like a candle that's been burning since 4 p.m. You shuffle into the kitchen like a wounded soldier. On the counter, 1 lone deviled egg with a toothpick in it, 3 mostly full wine glasses and a bowl of cocktail peanuts that look like they've seen things. You look at them, they look back. Every surface is sticky. With what you no longer care. Something sweet has congealed nearest the base of the punch bowl. The floor crunches in places. Someone dropped a Triscuit and stepped on it with the force of a biblical plague. You begin to gather the dishes, not wash them. No. That would require willpower and a soul. Just move them. Shuffle the wreckage into smaller piles so it looks less like a crime scene and more like a still life. You rinse 1 plate and immediately abandon the mission. In the bathroom, a hand towel is wedged into the curtain rod for reasons no one will ever know. The soap pyramid is ruined. A comb is in the sink. A lipstick print on the mirror offers no explanation. Back in the living room, the coffee table is decorated with 7 used stir sticks and 1 suspicious raisin. A magazine is open to an article about 7 ways to entertain with flair. You glare at it. The room still smells like perfume, aqua velva, and whatever chemical lives inside cherry gelatin. You collapse onto the couch. The cushions sigh beneath you like they too are emotionally drained. Your girdle creaks. Your hair has deflated. You're still technically wearing lipstick, but now it's mostly memory. You stare at the ceiling and review the evening like a battle report. Hors d'oeuvres survived. Cocktail hour? Barely. Dinner? Gelatin carnage. Dessert? Spiritual crisis. Bathroom? Compromised. Social standing? Miraculously intact. Your husband pokes his head in, says something about how it all went well. He did nothing. He knows it. You know it. And yet he looks like a man who just won an award. You do not respond. He vanishes again, presumably to relive his triumph in Spacement with a beer and a copy of Popular Mechanics. You pick up 1 ashtray. It is a mountain. You dump it into the trash with the ceremonial reverence of a burial. The trash can groans. You light a candle, not for ambiance but for emotional support. You consider soaking your feet, but the idea of finding the foot bath, filling it and plugging it in feels like climbing Everest in heels. Instead, you sit. Just sit. You feel every part of your body individually. Your knees are questioning their loyalty. Your hips are staging a protest. On the end table sits a cocktail napkin with someone's phone number scribbled on it. You have no idea who it belongs to. It might be a new friend, it might be a dentist. You place it in a drawer. You'll forget about it in 24 hours. You begin to smell something, not strong, not alarming, just mysterious. Is it ham? Is it lighter fluid? Is it someone's perfume mixed with floor polish? You inhale again. It's everywhere. It's nowhere. It lives here now. You decide to name it Shirley and let it be. You're too tired to solve atmospheric riddles tonight. Shirley. The mystery scent is part of the family now. She can help with dishes in the morning. You pour yourself one last drink, just a splash, to celebrate survival. You toast to the void, to casseroles and cracked pie crusts, to gossip and gelatin, to handshakes that linger and guests who do not leave. You made it. You hosted. And while your house may be in ruins and your soul slightly scorched, you now stand taller in the eyes of the neighborhood. You are a hostess, a survivor, and now you deserve a good rest. Good night, dreamer.